So this is a PowerBridge 1 Pro in-wall cable cable and power management kit. It's one of the best ones I've run across. And basically, the way these things work, there's two ends. There's the outlet end and, of course, the plug end. Now, you don't need to be a certified electrician to install these, but it's a little tricky as far as being on the upper end of handyman stuff, too. These newer models also have a couple of additional wires, and what they are for is a little indicator light in there. The kit will come with a little cardboard template which you can use to mark the wall. I cut that out with one of these Ryobi cutters. Any similar tool will do the same job. You can save the two pieces for replacement later, and I suggest doing a drywall cleanup as soon as possible on something like this. The kit comes complete with a length of cable, which, depending on the length of your run, you may want to shove that up in there or cut it off and restrip it. Kind of personal preference on that. The way these are, well, hopefully we'll go into the focus right. You put your cable ends in there, and they are marked W black and green, or ground, which is the one with nothing on it. So your white and the black will go in there in addition to it. We got the little flag thing for that. Now, here's the thing. When you feed everything through, you got to make sure you get it fed in the right sequence. So we've got our little HDMI cables. We got to make sure that we pass all these through the thing right. We've got our electrical cable, which also has to feed through this little box. You got to feed that through there, so it's going to be like hanging on there as we get it attached. The other thing is these go on with some screws that require a little Allen wrench, which is included. Now, as far as tightening that goes, you may want to put a little tape over that because it doesn't seem to want to super cinch down. But don't forget that the depth of this is made to go into the wall on that. Now, if you've got insulation inside there, you may have to shove or push that insulation over to get it out of the way so that everything fits. But a lot of times these are made to fit in a 2x4 stud wall, and a lot of exterior walls on newer houses are going to be 2x6 studs, so you're still not going to have, too much of a problem with room. The other thing is whether you're going to bias right, left, or center on this depends a lot on where your plugs are on a television. And on this particular TV, and most of them out there nowadays, your power and all of your HDMI and audio hookups are usually going to be on opposite sides. That's just the way it usually works out. But your power cord is going to be long enough to reach over, and then you'll probably want to use little tape and zip ties just to kind of manage that up back in there. Next stage will show how it is with some of the stuff attached. Now, as far as this going in the wall, this is what's held in by the little flag thing. So we pack it all into the wall. As we start turning that with a screwdriver, it flips this up and then tightens it against the drywall. We're not trying to go killer tight. We're not torquing anything down. We're just making sure it's going to stay in and stay firm. And personally, for fishing the wires, I like to be kind of relatively close to a stud, but obviously you want to do a little test cutting, especially on your top cut, to make sure you're not running into one, because you need to be off of the stud. You just want to be relatively close to one so that when you're fishing your wires through, I use a fish tape on that, you're not having too much left or right error on that, especially when you're fighting against insulation or a possible fire block inside the wall. So again, this is how this is going to work. You're actually going to be stuffing two wires in the white and black, and of course color match that. Look at the sequence that's here in this. Now, the way these are set, one's right side up, the other's upside down. So whether you're pushing that around the plastic may or may not matter as you're adjusting this, but generally speaking, this one's going to be facing like this as we go through this. And so we look for these. They actually give you two Allen wrenches with this. This will snap onto that. We put the little Allen wrench screws into there and tighten that down, and then you can either cut this wire short or just shove it all up in the wall. I prefer not to risk anything with the cutting, so we're going to curl it into the wall because it's a 2x6 stud and there's plenty of room in there. But you got to, when you're putting this into a 2x4 stud wall, you got to make sure that this thing actually ends up being touched on the opposite side and you've got enough room for everything. So as you adjust or rearrange things, longer is safer on some of these cords. You just have to be careful if you are cutting or drilling into the wall at some other point later on that could cause problems. So you just want to be aware of that. If you see a power bridge anywhere, be aware there's probably going to be a bundle of additional cables in a wall. The other thing I suggest not doing is zip tying these cables together. Some people do that. Generally no, because you may need to fish them in and out separately. And the other thing is it helps to fish an extra cable through just to use it to fish other cables through later on, because not everybody has a fish tape. But once you put an extra wire, like old speaker wire or something through there, it means that you've got an additional path to put additional cables through there at a future time. But it's tricky, so you really want to get everything through at once. And if you do want to fish additional cables and it's really tough to get through this thing, just undo the box, and then that's how you can get at those. Okay, so here we are put together. We've got the power cable. This thing basically will use an extension cord outside the wall. And then a cool thing is it's got its own little polarity tester built right in. So you'll see this little green indicator light. That means that it's powered up and the polarity is good because it's an LED. The cables, a little on the short side. Those careful to place this where it's going to be close to those. So I think we're going to be in good shape with that. And of course up here we've got this anchored in. I think the only position for a stud was here. This has those really good drywall anchors. They hold 75 pounds each. And of course we've got downforce on the TV. We're going to be just fine.